Okay, so here's another video on jazz practice. And the thing that was kind of conspicuous by its absence on the last video was any reference whatsoever to timing. Now, that is absolutely crucial. It's crucial in any music, but it's has a different kind of aspect to it in jazz because of the fundamental differences in rhythm between straight, eighths and sixteenths and swung eighth notes. So that's something that we've got to practice. So your friend in this is, of course, one of these things. This is an ancient electronic metronome, but there are apps and all sorts of stuff that you can get hold of. So first of all, once you've got the physical mechanics of an arpeggio or a scale together, and that takes a little bit of time just to slowly go through and coordinate your hands or your voice or whatever. Once you've got the basic mechanics, then as soon as you can, try and actually put those into timing. So I've got my metronome here set on 60 BPM. Okay, you might need to go slower. That's fine, because as a process, you won't be able to help yourself from, being able to do these exercises faster over time. So however slow you start is absolutely fine. So if we're talking about boom, 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 so if we're talking about a D minor 7th arpeggio, with some volume. Okay, so that's the notes, but then I got to put it in time. I got to work with this metronome. Okay. And it's not got a downbeat, it's just kind of clicking away. So we've got a 4-note arpeggio. So if we play the 4 notes of the arpeggio, then the octave and come back down, it'll kind of work out in 4/4. So first of all, just play that arpeggio in crotchets. So what are known slightly wrongly as quarter notes, because they're not quarter notes in 3/4 time, for example. But crotchets, we call them in the UK. So simply play the notes of the arpeggio. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, play those in time with the metronome. So let's try that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then up to the octave. Okay, so slightly drifting tuning. And so you can take that and just apply that to your other arpeggios that we looked at in the previous video. So minor 7th, dominant 7th, and major 7th. Okay, so that is a good bit of work. And again, if you take these round, different cycles, different root notes, all that kind of thing. Anything that you can come up with creatively in your practice is good. Just kind of, what if? Well, let's do them in minor thirds, or let's do them in, whatever interval or whatever sequence you feel like, or applying it to some kind of sequence, or like 2-5-1, that kind of thing. So it's all up for grabs. So the thing to do after that is then to try and practice some other stuff, maybe scales, modes, that kind of thing, but also with the metronome. And the thing that is the fundamental rhythm that you need to get more fluent with is the triplet, the quaver triplet, 8th note, again, misnomer, 8th note triplet or quaver triplet. So when we've got our pulse like this, boom, 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 boom. I'm not just thinking of that, I'm thinking maybe doing 3 on each note, if that's a good thing to do on your instrument or with your voice. So we'd have okay, so that's 3 hits on each note. And you notice how when I kind of rushed in there straight after speaking, I literally rushed in there and I was ahead of the beat. So I kind of pulled myself back. So I'm being kind of self-aware and self-critical when I'm practicing. And again, that's something that I would really focus on. Just trying to get a nice kind of swing to it, get it kind of in the pocket kind of thing. And then of course you can do that with the arpeggio in single notes. But then we've got a 4-note arpeggio, and 5 notes if we go up to the octave. So that's going to be a little bit awkward in 3s, isn't it? So I'll show you what I mean by that. But it's still good. It's still good to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the rhythmic resolution of that is slightly different. So you might want to do a different variation. Okay, so all these things are things to explore, things to be creative within your practice. Just kind of think, oh yeah, how is that going to work in a musical phrase, or how does that fit so that I can create a kind of neat and tidy exercise, that kind of thing. And then the same thing with scales and modes. You know, practice the modes with just 1 note per crotchet. 1. And then my picking got a little bit out there if you're doing it strictly alternate picking, but that's a kind of specifically guitar thing. And then if you're doing the scale, again you've got to think it says 7 notes in the scale, but so how do you get that to work in a way that's kind of rhythmically satisfying? Or you could try going further in the scale or less far in the scale, see how that works out. Or further or less, all that kind of thing. It's stuff to explore, because that's one thing that you'll want to do is you'll find out how you can fit these things into a musical context, you know. And one of the things that I'll come on to is kind of composing solos. So that's definitely something that you can think about. You could go up the arpeggio and down the scale. Or vice versa, or the other way around, all that kind of thing. And then the other thing to do with the metronome is to imagine that instead of the metronome being on 1, 2, 3, 4, the metronome's on 2 and 4, so that you get to like a double tempo. A 1, 2, 3, 4. A 1, 2, 3, 4. That kind of thing. And then we're getting in much more into kind of, you can hopefully see how that's already kind of got a swing, like a walking bass line feel to it. So playing your scales, thinking of the triplets, but thinking with that on 2 and 4. Da ga da 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 ga da da line. That kind of thing, you know, just making stuff up. Obviously, that's twice as fast, so you need to have done the technical kind of groundwork before you get to that point. But practicing with a metronome is absolutely crucial. Everybody develops their own kind of sense of swing. Swing is also different at different tempos, which is something that we'll find out about when we listen to specific examples of music from the recorded repertoire. Different players swing differently. That's why it's great to listen to an album, again, like Kind of Blue, that's got so many different takes on the music in it. All the different horn players that have a different rhythmic feel. And the rhythm section, that obviously ties together with Paul Chambers and Jimmy Cobb, but then the other guys play their own way on top of that. So that's a really interesting aspect of how individual people swing. Clifford Brown swings completely differently from Dexter Gordon, for example. So these are all things that are worth kind of, when you're listening, to kind of make notes of. Anyway, so metronome, absolutely essential. Sorry about the length of this video, but it's an important thing that you introduce the metronome as soon as you can in your daily practice.